It's Rich again. Yeah, unfortunately for me, I had to reinstall Visual Studio C++ because it got corrupt. It wouldn't even let me load it up, nothing. Reason it got corrupt, blaming my kids on that one. No. What happens is my son frequently likes to go to my power button and shut it off when I'm in the middle of doing things. That's happened a lot. I think it's like, what, 5 times, son? 5 times today. Freaking done that to me. But, you know, kids being kids. So, yeah, I reinstalled it, so we're good to go. Remember, we're going to be creating our own ScriptBind and general C++ programming with cryengine. None of this is pre-done. It's all going to be on the fly, like I said. So let's go ahead and get started from my RTS game here. Let's see. I started Visual Studio, and I got cryengine game only. Okay. Now, you guys may have recently watched my custom character creation tutorial, and part 2 is coming very soon because I've never looked at doing animation graph. I never even looked at it in my life, but I looked at it and did some tutorials on the free SDK.crydev.net, you know, the official documentation, and I followed along with it, and it seems like a breeze. I don't think you guys are going to have too much issues with it, really. So I'll be done in a couple days, but for now, you know that video never turned into HD. It got stuck on 480. And I noticed something. Like, I upload my videos all in HD, all of them. And after I upload them, I delete the source file off my computer to save space because I do a lot of recording. No, Jeffrey. I do a lot of recording, so I delete all the source files. So once it's up on YouTube, I can't do anything about it. I don't have the source file anymore. And I don't have very much disk space. So I have to do it. Now, here's the thing. That will never upload to HD, and I know this from observation now. It's been up there for about a week, I think, more than a week, I think, and it still hasn't gone up to HD. Now, 1080p is what I upload in. So what happens is, I think it's the time, how long the video is, like file size and how long it is. You know, longer the video, obviously, the bigger the size. And I think that's what it is. When I uploaded all my videos in HD, if it's like less than 2 hours, less than 2 hour video. I'm not sure if it's a file size, but in the format I open up, format I save in, 2 hours is a certain file size, but it may be file size, but time wise, just from my experience, it was 2 hours, a little bit under 2 hours, and it uploaded to 1080p. But I had a video on that was 2 hours, like 2 hours and 5 minutes, I think it was, and it only uploaded 720p, even though I uploaded, 1080. So it cut it down to 720 because it was over 2 hours. But then I uploaded one that custom character creation that was 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 45 minutes, something like that, and that only went to 480. So I got to make sure my videos are split into parts where they're under the 2 hour mark. That's what I think I have to do from now on. So just letting you guys know that. All right. So here, you guys know that this is an RTS game here, and I got some unit selection and movement going on. And for a script bind, this is the idea I think I'm having. It's not really going to be important for an RTS or anything, but I'm using my RTS source code as an example. I'm thinking about making, like, when I place an entity on the place an entity by my build system. A little bit after that, I'm going to have Lua actually take my entity and move it over some, or move it to a different location, to somewhere else. I mean, you can do this in Lua already, but not in the way that I'm going to do it. And since this is a ScriptBind tutorial, we're going to do the coding in C++ and create the ScriptBind and do the actual, calling of the functions and stuff in Lua. So currently, when I place an entity, I place it and it's done over with. So now I want to get away because I know if I want to take an entity that I have to get later on because the Lua script's going to be moving it. I have to have a way of cryengine or my code remember what was the last entity that I placed down was, so that I can use it later on when I tell the Lua script to move it. So I don't have that currently. I don't have a way to detect the last build that I, building that I built. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's see how we're going to do this. So when I place a building on the thing, I want to make sure I say that it's the last building. So it has to do with unit selection and movement, so I'm going to go to my class for that. Boom, 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 boom. And close these right now. So I'm going to go to my stuff here. I'm going to my build system. No, I don't want that. I want... Yeah, I'll go to my build system, actually. My build system, because it's relating to finding the last building. So I'll put that in the build system. Let's open up the CPP file in the .h file. And I want to create a variable in my scripts here, because now I'm going to need to have this variable that holds the last building that I built. It needs to be like global so that my scripts can access it, because obviously if it was in a local little place, it'd be long gone. After the function was done building, it would delete the variable because it's all in local space. But I need to have a way for that variable to continue on in its life. And if I put that inside of a class, the variable inside of a class that holds that, I do know that my RTS build system is actually stored in a global, has a global object. It's a global object. You'll notice that a lot of my systems, I think every single system, actual system that I have, is one global version of it. There's one instance of each system, and they're all global, so I can access them from anywhere. And since my build system will be global accessible from anywhere, so will the variable that holds the building. So let's go ahead and do this. Since this is a struct, obviously everything's public, so I don't have to worry about anything there. Member variables, let's put this here. We're going to create a variable. And I like to append my member variables with the m underscore. I think a lot of people do. It just lets me know visually that it's a member variable, and it's different from a regular variable. And we're going to holding an entity. Am I holding an entity here? I'm not sure if it's going to be storing an entity. I think my build system actually converts it into a different object. So let's go to my build system. Let's find my functions here. RTS build system for scope, and for the functions, build. Place. I think it's place here. Bum, 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 bum. I think it's actually an entity. I couldn't remember. It's been a while since I looked at my C++ stuff here. Entity class, and yeah, we're getting a entity here. Yeah. So we're going to make a variable that holds an entity because I'm spawning an entity with my build system. So we're going to make an entity variable, and you can do that. Make a variable that holds an entity. Entity. Oops. You need a capital E. IEntity is a class, and it will be able to hold an entity variable. IEntity, make sure it's a pointer. IEntity P. Oops. IEntity M underscore P and IEntity M P last build entity. iEntity, MP last build entity, just like that. Naming it here. And how's that going to be stored? So I got to find where I place it, and I believe it's in my place function here. And MP build entity. Update build entity, SetPosition. MP build entity is my last one here. MP build entity is the entity that's being built. So I'll just, when I place it, and it places it by actually setting the is building to false, meaning I'm updating the build entity. I mean, I'm moving the entity with my mouse. It gets the position of my mouse and moves it along. And if I set this variable to false, is building, it basically stops the call to update, and it won't update the move position anymore. So it's being placed when I is building is false. So when we get is building is false, when we place it, we want to take the m underscore p build entity, MP build entity, and we want to make that, store that into m underscore p last build entity equals. So our variable MP last build entity will now hold the last entity that was placed. So we have a way of referring to that now, which is good. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and create the script bind. So we have a way of we knowing what the last entity was that was placed. And let's go ahead and make the script bind here. So in order to make a script bind, we're going to have to create a new class. Okay, follow along, guys. We're going to have to create a new class. And I'm going to make some new folders here to store this in. I'm going to make a folder RTS game. So under my files, add new filter, RTS game. And here, RTS game. Add new filter, script binds. Now this is not needed. I'm just, for organization's sake, putting these in, right folders. Keep in mind that actually adding these folders here aren't really creating the folders on your hard drive. It's the virtual folders that are within the project. So these folders aren't being created on the hard drive. Just remember that. These are just for specifically for the solution here. So I got RTS game and script bind. I want script binds. And let's go ahead and make them actual real folders so I can keep consistency. And I'm just going to do this by opening up one of these files and then open full. Whoops. Here we go. Open containing folder. And under my files, I got to create a new folder. Make sure it matches. What was it? RTS game. RTS game. And going to make a new folder. Script binds. Just like that. Okay. I don't need this anymore. So in the script binds, I'm going to add a new item, and I'll make sure I place it in the correct directory by hitting browse, game DLL, my files, RTS game, script binds. Yeah, select. Now this will be placed in the right folder, and make a header file first, and we're going to name this RTS No. Script naming is arbitrary, doesn't really matter. Script bind. I usually like to put script bind, one word, underscore, and then what is the script bind of? Script bind RTS game. Make sure you don't name it the same files as another already named script bind. Probably wouldn't affect it, but just get used to not naming things the same and having all names unique. Script bind RTS game is a header file. There we go. And I'm just going to copy this, so I don't have to retype it. Right click, add, new item, and make it a CPP file. Go ahead, it's in the right directory, add. First thing I do, and you guys should too, it was a rhyme. Anyways, the first thing you guys should do when you create your header files is immediately add inclusion guards. That way you can't mess up when you include files. I'm not going to go really in depth on explaining on this, but open up your .h file. And immediately, the first thing I do is I immediately go pound if and def means if not defined, and then the name you want to give it. This is any name. I usually name it the same as the header file, in this case script bind RTS game. So underscore, you don't have to, you can name it whatever you want, but this is how I do it. Underscore script bind underscore RTS game underscore. Usually add an underscore before and after the name. So if not defined, script bind RTS game, pound define. We're going to define it. If it's not defined, define it. So underscore, same thing. Make sure it's exactly the same as what you put above. Script bind underscore RTS game. And then go down a few lines here. Pound end if. Just like that. What this does, like I said, I'm not going to go in depth, but what this does basically is when you start getting a lot of files and you start including one file in the other, this file in the other, you're going to, most likely, you're going to run into a situation where you include a file in one CPP file more than once, and you end up with compile errors there because what you're doing is you're actually including the same code twice into a file, and you get multiple redefinitions errors for compiling, and this avoids that. It checks every time you try to include a .h file. The first thing it's going to hit is going to say if it's not defined, then go ahead define it, and this is all what script bind RTS game is, and then it's going to end the define, and it's going to go ahead and go through the code until it hits this end if line. But if, for instance, it says if you've already included it and it tries to include it, the first thing it's going to hit is if not defined, blah, 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 then go ahead and define it. Well, it is already defined because it's already in here. So basically, skips everything in between here, so it doesn't end up including anything again, which is good. I would do that between everything. The second thing I usually do before I make a mistake is go into the CPP file and immediately pound include stdafx.h. Every file needs this because we're using pre-compiled headers. It will not compile without it. And now I start writing my class here. So we're going to do the script bind, and I'm going to refer to my other scripts because I'm still new to script binds. So I'm going to refer to my other script bind to see how we do this. But for sure, you got to create a new class for this, and you can name it whatever you want. Now, usually, you should include script bind in the name of the class so that you know it's a script bind. But we're just going to go ahead and put class. Usually, I do structs, you guys, but I'm not sure if it needs to be a class. But they all are using a class, the existing script bind. So I'm just going to stick with class in case it needs a class. But I'm pretty sure it doesn't really matter if you use struct or class. But I just like to stick with class for the script binds. Class, and let's go ahead and name it. So I'm going to name it script bind underscore RTS game. So we're creating a class for our script bind RTS game, and put a colon here. add public, because we're going to be deriving off of a already existing class to make a ScriptBinds, which has most of the functionality for doing this, making it our lives 10 times easier. How you do this is you derive, is you write the class name and then a colon and public and then the name of the class you want to derive from. So basically what deriving is, if you guys don't know already, which you guys should by now, if you're doing this, ScriptBinds, is basically you're saying I have a new class, ScriptBind RTS game, and I want to take all of the functionality from the included, from the original. So basically I want to copy and paste all of the stuff from one class into my new class. That way I don't have to rewrite all the function that already exists. So basically we're just taking a function, a class, and just adding little extra stuff to it. That's what we're doing. So public, and the class we need to derive from is C scriptable base. And actually this won't work unless you do pound include. There are two files you absolutely need to include for script binding, and that is include script helpers.h. You need to include script helpers.h and pound include the iScript system. iScript system. Doesn't really matter if you had quotations or little greater than, less than signs. I think the difference is greater than, less than signs are include files where it already knows the location of where they are, and using quotations means you are, it's in a custom place where you have to find the file. But don't hold me to that. And boop. Let's go ahead, and usually after I do this, make the scope, I immediately put a semicolon because it's needed at the end of a class. You need a semicolon at the end to let it know you're done with defining the class. And obviously you're going to need a constructor for this class. This constructor is a function with the same name. It doesn't return anything. Just like that. You're not going to see void behind it or anything like that. So RTS game. ScriptBind RTS game, and the initializer, usually you would do something along the lines of this to make your constructor, but actually inside here you need to initialize it with global environment. Hold on. Forward declarations, so I get some IntelliSense help here. Because of this error, it won't let me get it. It's really not an error, but it's fine. So struct iGame frame. Honey, can you go get Jeffrey, please? Hold on here. Open up my old ones. That's fine. I was going to get the ice system. You need to construct it with the ice system. And I was going to use the global environment to get the ice system. but I just remembered that I don't need to. You construct it with the iSystem, so you need iSystem, pSystem. pSystem is just a pointer I'm creating that will point to the iSystem. And let's go ahead and make the destructor for it, which is going to be the same name. You don't have to have anything in the destructor. And we're going to make this a virtual, virtual. Don't ask me about the technicalities of this. I'm still not sure what virtual is. I have a basic idea, but we're not going to go over that. Virtual. And for a destructor, you need a little squiggly line, a tilde sign right before it. There we go. And boop, boop, just like that. We'll make the declaration and definition one thing. Just like that. Now, what we're going to do next is my path tool. I'm trying to blank here. Anyways, we're going to be writing our functions that we want Lua to be able to access. So we got to write just regular functions like you would in C++ that you want Lua to access. And they have to be int, I believe. They have to return int no matter what. So int, they have to be int. And int, it's going to be moving an entity. So I'm going to name it move build entity. Move build entity. And we just created that function right there. Int move build entity. And one thing I did forget, very important, make sure that immediately after the opening scope operator here, go ahead and immediately make everything below it public so it can be accessed. So type in public colon. That means everything from here on out is going to be public and accessible. Okay? And just like that. So we have our class that derives off the C scriptable base, which has basically all the functionality needed to have Lua access to scripts. And we're going to create an extra function here, move build entity. That's going to move our entity. These are all the functions that you would put that you want Lua to be able to access. Now that we've done that, we can go ahead and move on to defining what this function does. So let's go ahead and see what this function does here. So we need to do something inside of the constructor. It's very important. It's inside of the constructor. The functions that need to be done. Very, very important. It will not be done otherwise. So go ahead and copy. And we're going ahead and we're going to write what needs to be done in the constructor first. And so take the write the definition for the constructor. ScriptBind RTS game, ScriptBind RTS game. I don't know why we're getting an error. Oh, duh. In the CPP file, make sure that you include the H file, pound include, and what is it? ScriptBind RTS game. There we go. Now our actual CPP file knows what this class is all about because we've told it by including this file here. Now that we do that, let's go ahead and we need to initialize the script system and the system itself. And we're going to do that by using the C scriptable base function called init, and inside we're going to initialize the script system, and we're just using the P system here because we constructed our we're using our constructor, and one of the arguments that are passed with it is the P system, so our function can now use the P system. So we're going to take that P system and we're going to call its function get iScript system, which will return the iScript system. So the C scriptable base, we need to initialize the iScript system and the P system. So that's what we do here. We tell the system that was passed an argument to get the iScript system, and we just initialize the system itself. First thing we need to do is initialize that. Next thing we need to do is we're going to write the global name of our ScriptBind RTS game, meaning there's a special function that's in the C scriptable base class that allows us to take a string name and make it a actual class. So basically what this does is, let me write this out first. Set global name, and we just give it any name you want. Any name you want. It's a string. Remember, it takes a string argument. And we're going to name it RTS game. Oops, I don't want a capital A there. RTS game. Meaning, in my Lua scripts, if I want to use all these functions and variables that I have in my script table, like the function move build entity that we have here, if I want to be able to call that function, I have to have a class to call it from. And RTS game is it. So in Lua, I would type in RTS game dot move build entity. Very, very simple, huh? So when you set a global name, it's basically the name you want to give it in Lua. So you can type in RTS game dot and then the function name to call the function. If I write cat, then in order to call the move build entity function I created in this class, I would type cat dot move build entity. So cat is the basically the object you're creating. So name it anything. I'm naming it RTS game. Makes sense, right? RTS game dot, and then I can call the functions. So when you set a global name, you just basically given the object a name that you're going to be using. And you'll see it'll make sense later on. You can give it any name you want, RTS game. Once we've given it a name, we got to go ahead and register our functions for it, so that our Lua can know what functions we want to be able to access. So right below that, we're going to write the functions that we want. So we're going to have to first pound undef, which is undefined script reg class name, just like that, all capitals, exactly how it's spelled. And then pound define script reg class name, and give it a reference to your actual class. And since this is the ScriptBind RTS game, we're going to ScriptBind RTS game. So here's what it is, guys. This is what this does. Undefine this, and then redefining this, and giving it the reference to our ScriptBind game. And you want : which is a scope resolution operator, which is going to let it know all of the functions here and below that are going to be accessible from Lua. So what this does, I believe, I haven't looked in it, but from the sounds of it, this script-reg class name, it's a define that is a function that actually what it will do, I believe, is I'll take our class. See, our class is this, and you know we have a class. We can call functions that's inside the class by using ScriptBind RTS game dot, and we can call its own functions. What this is doing is it's saying, hey, RTS game, our new name that we created, is going to be our ScriptBind RTS game. So whenever we're actually typing RTS game in our Lua script, it'll understand it as we're typing ScriptBind RTS game. See what I'm saying? So if I type in, let's just show you, ScriptBind underscore RTS game. That's how I would use it in actual C++. Dot, and see, I can call its own functions. Dot done. Okay? See, I just called a function that's in this class. Pretty cool, huh? Well, let me call the move build entity, which is my own. That's part of this class. See, RTS move build entity. That's just how we would call it in. There's the object right here. Here's the object, and here's the function that belongs to that object that we're calling. Well, what this set global name is, and what this script register class name is saying that RTS game is now going to be basically like typing ScriptBind RTS game. So in Lua, we would do this instead. Oops. RTS game dot blah 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 to call that function. See what I'm saying? So the script reg class name is taking our class and a list of its functions that are going to be accessible, and it's going to be mapping it to RTS game. So again, the script reg class name is taking our class that has all the functionality and mapping it to the name RTS game. So in Lua, we could just write RTS game and then the function. Pretty neat, huh? So there we go. And there's two different types of so to do that, we have to write script reg template function, temp, just like this, template function, and the function name that we want to expose to Lua, and then any functions, arguments that this function has. But if your function has no arguments, I'll go over both of these. So if your function has no arguments, let's look at our RTS game. Our move build entity, as you can see, doesn't have any arguments. Nothing. It's just a straight out calling the function with no arguments. So we wouldn't need a template function because we don't have any arguments. So in this case, we would just write script reg function. And then the name of the function, just like that. So what's the name of a function? Move build entity. So we want to make move build entity function available to our script. So move build entity, just like that. Now if I had another function I wanted to expose, I would go ahead and write another line, script reg func, and put the other function I want to register. Now if my function did have parameters, or arguments I should say, like move build entity, entity, let's say I wanted to, when I call this function, I want to pass in the entity with it. See, P entity. What I would do here is, since this move build entity does have arguments, comma, make sure it's a string, P entity. Just like that. Because that's one of the arguments. And obviously, it wouldn't be a function anymore. It would be a template function, T-E-M-P. So ScriptReg template function will go ahead and it will allow you to register to the scripts or to Lua that you have a function that has parameters, arguments. ScriptReg func without the temp just has no arguments. You just have a parameter. You just have a function. Now, one more thing before I continue. If I have more than one, I wouldn't write it like this. So if I had two arguments in the function that move build entity had two arguments, I wouldn't do that and write, let's say, position, P-O-Z. That was one of the ones. I wouldn't do this. Normally, you would say, okay, I'm passing has two strings. You don't do this. When you list all your functions, you basically do this right here. We have one argument separated and two arguments, but there's only a quote here and a quote at the end. So if I have three, I'll add another one here, and we'll say I have a size. We'll pass it a size. See, just like that. So one at the end and one at the two, but we have 1, 2, 3 arguments to this function. That's how you would pass arguments along with. But we don't. We just have move build entity, and we'll get rid of the template because it's not a template. We don't have any things here. Just like that. So we have one function, so we're going to register that to the scripts. And now we're just going to write what the function does. Let's go write the definition of the function. It returns an int. The function returns an int. My move build entity returns an int. So int script bind RTS game move build entity. Boop. And it's right what the function does. What does the move build entity function do? Oh, one thing I did forget, guys. No matter what, no matter if your function returns anything or not, the very first parameter needs to be this. The very, very, very first parameter, or the argument, needs to be a function handler. So no matter what you write for your function, the very first parameter has to be I function handler, and it's a pointer. You can name it whatever you want, but PH. No matter what it is. No matter if you have any arguments or not, it needs to have at least one argument called iFunctionHandler. And this is just there for just specific reasoning. I'm not sure, but it needs to have it. There we go. You see the error here went away, and so did this error here. And just write what it does. And so I want to move my build entity, let's say up by 50 meters. I want to move building up by 50 meters. Pretty simple. Remember my build RTS build system, which is has global. I can access it globally because it's defined globally. So let's go ahead and write that. G_RTS build system. Because this is global, I have a file that stores all of my globals, and it's #include and it's not going to find it. So I'm going to find it myself. Globals.h. I'm going to copy the full path to where this globals.h file is located. As you can see, I have all my stuff here. RTS build system, GRTS build system. So these are all my systems here that I have. Since my last build entity is located in the class, stored inside the class, in a variable inside the class of my build system, my build system is global, I'm going to access it. And I'm going to include that global so I can access it. There we go. G, RTS build system, dot, and if I look down, MP last build entity. That's what's going to be my actual build entity. Pretty cool, huh? So now I actually have the entity that I last built, and I can use it by RTS build system.mp last build entity. And we're going to add something here. Since this is a pointer, I want to make sure that the pointer actually exists before I use it. Otherwise, I will end up in a runtime error. Because if I try to use something that doesn't even exist, I'll get a read violation during runtime, and my program will crash. So if our MP last build entity, since it's a pointer, we can compare it against a 0. A null pointer means a pointer that doesn't have anything in it. So if it does not, so before we use it, we want to make sure it exists first. So if MP last build entity does not equal NULL, and this is a define that's already existing, it means 0. So you could just type 0 here if you want. Same thing. But I like to use null with pointers. So if it doesn't equal, if it's not empty, then go ahead and do it. If it actually has something in it, then go ahead and continue with the operation. I want to move it. So I want to take my build entity and I want to access one of its functions, and one of its functions is SetPosition, and it takes a vector 3, an x, y, and z, a position, where you want to put it. So we're going to take our build entity and set its position to somewhere else. Well, we just want to move it up 50. That's fine. Where do we want to put it? Well, it needs a vector 3 parameter, x, y, and z, where we want to put it. So we want to take the last build entity, set its position to what? Well, I'll just take it again. And we'll make a vector 3 by using, we'll make a vector 3 variable, vec3, just like that, open, and closing, just like that. And making a vector 3, it takes an x, a y, and a z to make it. So we're going to take our build entity, right? So for the set position for the x value, we're going to have a vector 3, and the first x is going to be np build entity. We're going to use one of its functions, and get world position, very important. Don't just get its regular. Don't use get position. Use get world position. So get world position here. Dot x means we just want the x position of our entity. For the y, we want to go ahead and get the y position. Get world position dot y, we want to get the y position. And for the z value, we want to z is up, so we want to add 50 to it, so it actually goes 50 up from where it already is. And I'll explain this a little bit more in depth after I write this. Get world SetPosition dot z plus 50. We're going to take the z position and add 50 to it, so it's 50 above where the entity already is. Pretty cool, huh? So here we go. We take the our last build entity, and we want to set its position. And the SetPosition takes a vector 3 and x, y, and z value. So we create a vector 3, and the vector 3 has an opening of defining what the vector 3 is and the closing of where the vector 3 is. So the x position of the vector is going to be the x position of where our entity is already. The y position of the vector is going to be where our the y position of where our entity is already, and the z position of the vector is going to be the current z position of our entity plus 50. So basically, it's going to move it 50. It's going to set this function here. The entity's function SetPosition is going to set its position plus 50 in the z-axis, just like that. So if the entity is not null, if it actually has something in it, we're going to go ahead and take its function called SetPosition and give it a vector 3 of x, y, and z. We want x, y to not be changed. We want the y value not to be changed. And we want to add 50 to the z. Just like that. And we're going to return, because they always have to return, and this is something different. Return, and we're going to use the a function handler that was passed to the build entity function. Move build entity function. We're going to take the ph, the actual function handler. We're going to return the function handler and function, just like that. It's a specific thing that's used for ScriptBinds to return an int. We use return, ph, and function. We're all done. So when we call our move build entity, it's going to make sure that the last entity that was built is actually existing and it's not empty. And then if it is actually something, we're going to take it, set its position to an x, y, and z variable value. Not going to change its x, not going to change its y, but we are going to add 50 to its z. Just like that. So one last step. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that right now. Let's go over this one more time, top to bottom, because we're all done. So in order to create a script bind, we need, in a script bind, you need to make your own class, like we did here. We need to include the scripthelpers.h and the iscriptsystem.h. So when you create a new class, whatever you want to, name it appropriately, what makes sense. And we're going to derive from the C scriptable base, meaning we're going to take a lot of the functionality that C from C scriptable base class and use it in our own class here. And then we're going to make sure everything is public, so everything can be accessed. And we're going to make a constructor that uses a P system as its argument. It needs to be there. Then we're going to make a destructor, and since nothing goes inside of the destructor, we just went ahead and we added these opening, closing curly brackets here to actually define it because it's empty. It'd be the same as writing this. Empty. Nothing happens there. And then this is where we put our functions that we want to actually be accessible from the scripts. Function, 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 function. And then in the CPP file, we went ahead and we immediately, because it won't work without it, we defined the constructor, again with the I system, P system. And we use a C scriptable base init function. And we initialize the iScript system and the system. Pretty cool, huh? And then we set the global name, meaning what's the name we're going to use to access it in our script. In this case, RTS game. So we're going to type in Lua, RTS game dot blah, 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 and then the function. Then we're going to actually map our class that we created to the name. So it knows what we're talking about in Lua. When we type RTS game, we're talking about this class here. Pass the reference to your script. Make sure you have the scope operators here to show all the functions. Script reg function, which actually registers the function to the RTS game. And remember, if you're creating a function that doesn't have any arguments, this isn't considered an argument. I function handler, P handler. Well, it is, but I'm saying you don't need a template function for this. But this I function handler PH, whether you have any arguments of your own or not, is needed for every single function. So we're going to register a function. But if your function had parameters inside of it, what it would do is you obviously make this a script reg temp function, means template function, and then go ahead and bam, and then blah 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 blah, whatever functions that you had in there, whatever arguments you had in there. After we do that, after we set the global name, mapped our class to the actual RTS game name, and registered all the functions we want to be available, we go ahead and define the functions, what they do. In this case, I move build entity. It basically takes our last build entity that we built, checks, make sure it actually exists before we use it, because we'll run into a runtime error, and then we'll actually then we'll actually set its position. Just like that. Okay? And that's all it takes. That's all it takes. And then you need to, one more step. I left this for last because it's very important. And it won't work without it. Trust me, it won't. And one more thing you need to do for this to work. Otherwise, you'll get a attempt to index global blah, 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 a nil value. You try to use it in Lua. What it is, you need to create an instance of your object so it can be used. Taking our class name here, taking our class name, and we're just going to go to the game. And we're going to create the instance of this, a global instance actually of this, and we're going to game files, and we're just going to game.cpp, which is CryEngine's game file, and we're going to make sure that we are in the C game scope here, and look for init ScriptBinds, initialize ScriptBinds. Here we go. Here's the function initialize ScriptBinds. Let's go ahead and come in. Initialize the ScriptBinds. So let's put our class name. So we're going to create an instance of a class, ScriptBind game. Make sure it's a pointer. ScriptBind game. P ScriptBind game equals new ScriptBind game. And we had our constructor had the what? P system in it. Our constructor had the iSystem, P system in it. So it just needs a P system here. You can put iSystem, P system here. Or you can just take the MP framework, get iSystem. Same thing. They both return the iSystem. MP framework, get iSystem. I'm able to use the MP framework here because it's already defined inside of this game class. Just like that. It doesn't know what I'm talking about because I didn't include my file. So let's go ahead and do that. Pound include my files, RTS game, ScriptBinds, ScriptBind, RTS game. Now it should know what the hell we're talking about. game, let's go back to the init ScriptBinds function, init ScriptBinds, and you can see ScriptBind RTS game. We created a pointer to our ScriptBind game equals new ScriptBind game. We're calling the constructor here equals new, then calling the constructor ScriptBind RTS game with the iSystem as the argument. That's all you need to do, folks. That is all you need to do. Pretty cool, huh? That's all. Created the class, made the constructor with the P system in it, the I system in it, I mean, and we created a destructor with nothing in it. We created the functions that are going to be needed, and we're going to return int always. And then in the constructor, we're actually going to C scriptable base. We're going to call the init function, and we're going to initialize the I script system and the P system. We're going to give it a global name that we could call it in script, Lua. Then we're going to make sure that we undefine the register class name and redefine it as our reference to our class name, so it maps it to the RTS game. And we're going to go ahead and register all of the functions that we want to have Lua access. And then we go ahead and we just write what our functions do and make sure we return a phn function. Let's see if this compiles. And one succeeded. We successfully did it. Let's go ahead and open up our editor. And we're going to call this function from any entity at all. We're going to call it. You motherfucker. I hate when my speech recognition starts up. It does that because it's used with my RTS game. So it automatically starts it up. Sometimes it causes quite a bit of errors. They'll sit there and hang, and it'll take forever for it to not hang. Just like this. Motherfucker, I hate this. No matter what you do, I can't click anything outside here, nothing, unless this goes away. And sometimes it's a bitch to get rid of. And that's usually have to do it just like that. Have it down pat. Sometimes it actually doesn't work. I have to log out. The only way to do it is to hit Control Alt to delete, and I can't even use the Control Alt to delete menu. Everything just freezes on me. So I have to Control Alt to delete, and from that pop-up, that blue screen that comes up says log computer, stuff like that, I have to log off and log back on. Hurry up. Hurry up. Hurry up. Open up. Open up. Jesus. Okay, let's go ahead and we can use any entity we want. And any entity we want, but I'll just use one of my custom entities. Editor tools, path entity. I'll do a path entity out here. Just like that. And I'll click on it, edit script. And I have an on update, which comes with every entity. Function, path entity, colon, on update. And we're going to do the call the function every frame, just quick and dirty, so I know it gets called every single frame. And like I said, in order to call the function, we need to type in RTS game, that's what we called it, dot move build entity. Move build entity. Just like that. RTS game dot move build entity. And save it. Oh, great. Attempt to call field move build entity. I might have to stop the video and see what the hell's going on here. I had this issue earlier. Jeffrey, don't touch.
Daddy.
What, honey?
Daddy, please.
Not right now, honey. This really sucks. Jeffrey, no.
Daddy.
I'm just going to make this a template function, see if this helps. And add parameters. And it's not going to have any parameters. I'll just leave it blank. So a template function, move build entity, and just leave this blank here.
Stop.
I'm going to name this RTS game test. RTS game test. We're going to see here. RTS game test. And it works. And I'll explain to you why. It happened earlier, before. Let me get rid of this. And just like I said before, since it doesn't really return anything, as it doesn't have any arguments, we're just going to make a script reg function, but keep the name RTS game test. Okay? And I'm going to go ahead and compile it. So before, it's just like a regular function, script reg function. And we're going to keep it RTS game. And like I said, this happened before. This should still work. Reloading the scripts, everything's fine. So if you noticed, it's still just no functions. It's a script reg function and not script reg template function. No need. The reason why is because I set the global name to RTS game. You cannot set this name to an already existing entity, RTS game. That's what it was before, and it wouldn't work because, to be honest, if I go to my Lua files and I look at my entities that I've created, my custom entities, if I go into scripts, entities, games, rtsgame.lua, rtsgame equals blah, 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 blah. So RTS game is already an entity that I made. So there's no way I can make set the global name to a name of an entity that already exists. Since RTS game does exist, RTS game test does not exist. That's why it was able to do that. So let me go ahead and edit the scripts. And so it calls move build entity on the update function. So every frame is going to call that. So let's go ahead and save it. File. Export it to the engine. Exit. Going to load up the actual game so I can actually build my entity. You guys may lose focus here. Don't worry about it. Graphics settings. Full rated by 720. Full screen, no. You guys should be able to see. And go to single player. RTS first map. Let me zoom way out so I can. It's going to go up 50 meters per second, so per frame I should say. And I don't know how fast that is, so we may miss it if it actually works. So we'll go ahead and click H to build our house, and click it. Whoa! Did you see it? It's up. It's way up there. H. Whoa! It's way up there. Let me exit. Go in here. Instead of adding 50, we're going to add 1. I should have done that to begin with. And I'm probably going to use this script bind and extend it later on for my own RTS game. So I wanted to name it something appropriate. SB, script bind RTS game. And I'm going to go ahead and recompile it. Okay, everything's fine. Take my Lua script. Make sure it's SB. I'm going to save it. I'm not sure if I need to re-export it to the engine or if the engine will have the most up-to-date version. We'll see. You guys will probably not be able to see right now. Just give me a second. Okay. I may have to re-export my actual level, but maybe not. Let's just re-upload. Like I said, this is something very simple. It's not really a big deal. It really has no use, really, but it shows you how to effectively write a script bind and have Lua call functions that are in C++. So basically, you can use Lua for everything, which obviously you don't want to do. It would be stupid. But it's a way of adding more functionality to Lua, really, in programming. So you get nice, fast iteration over your stuff, and it's awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I love ScriptBinds now. Duh. Forgot to delete test. That's not the name of it. Jesus, so much technicality. It's all good now. Save. And export it to the engine. I think I'm approaching on the 2-hour mark, so I better hurry my ass up. It should work now, hopefully. Let me zoom way out. Build a house. Whoop. Bye-bye, house. Huh? I don't. As soon as I click on something else and make up something new, it stops because that's not the last build entity anymore. Now I got floating houses. Oh dear Lord. That's funny. Alright guys, last thing I want to show you is that I got, it's off not related, but I want to show you I actually have my people dynamically off of my build entities navigating around things. So let me go ahead and select him and bring him way over here and put a house in his way, spawned up. He's like, I don't think so. Let me go the other way. Perfect. Then you bring him back over here, spawn a town center, and keep it right here. I didn't place it yet, but he's like, okay, I might as well go around. He's like, yeah, I might as well go around. Okay, guys, thank you guys very much. Hope you guys enjoyed. Leave comments. Let me know how I did, all right? Thank you.